Hello and welcome to the Film Pulse Podcast. This is episode number 360. My name's Adam Patterson. With me today we've got Kevin Rakestraw. Hey, Kevin.
Hey.
How's life treating you?
Yeah. It's good. We're doing good.
Hanging in there.
I mean, to be honest, I got a lot better than a lot of people.
Yeah, I think about... It's like every day I think about a new... like vocation or like subset of people who are going through this and like thinking about how it's impacting them, you know, from like hairdressers to entertainment workers to like even like sex workers and homeless, and like how this is all affecting them in different ways.
I don't know if I'm sure you probably have, but like one of the main things that I've realized or thought about is like, thank God I am not in the assisted living arena anymore.
Yeah.
Like I was for like years.
Yeah.
And the janitorial work.
Got to be pretty rough. I mean, I know that a lot of most assisted living and nursing homes are closed they're locked down to visitors, but obviously, you know, the workers got to keep everything running and keep them safe. Keep the residents safe.
You remember when like someone would get the stomach flu?
Yeah, I mean, anything. I remember that one time I can't remember which nursing home we were working at. I think it was in Shrewsbury when there was like that
flu?
Yeah, that flu outbreak. Holy crap. And they had to like quarantine that whole wing, and you had to like get like full hazmat gear just to go in.
Yeah, I didn't work there at the time, but my wife was telling me about that.
It was crazy.
Because and I'll have to remind her, because she was like, I wonder if Adam worked there when that happened.
Yeah, I did. It was horrific, dude. Like every day, it was like one or two people died every day.
Yeah.
It was so rough. And I imagine that it's probably worse right now than what was happening during that time. A flu outbreak.
Oh yeah, like in Lancaster County, like I think almost all of our cases are nursing homes for assisted living.
Yeah, it's really, really bad. Keeping a pretty somber tone this week, we have a review for Eliza Hittman's Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. We'll also be going over something watching on the watch list and new releases in theaters, VOD, and Blu-ray, except not theaters, of course. Which is terribly sad still. Maybe I'll mention maybe we'll talk about that at the end of the watch list, but there's a lot of companies and things doing sort of trying the virtual theater experience and stuff like that to try to keep some of these theaters running during this time.
Listen, we can talk about that a little bit now, because that's one thing. I mean, it sucks that it's kind of like lined up with me not being 100% into movies right now, which I talked about last podcast, where I'm finding it difficult to watch movies, you know, attention span wise and everything. But I hate to say it this way, but there's a tiny bit of excitement with movies right now, because it seems like every time I jump on Twitter or the internet, I'm learning about movies that are now available, where, you know, someone else has set up this virtual theater or virtual online cinema, or this filmmaker has made all of their shorts available, and this place has, you know, released their entire catalog for viewing. You know, like you just don't know what's going to happen day by day.
Yeah, I think that, you know, as many horrific things are coming out of this event, we have a lot of really great things coming out of it too. I mean, a lot of these companies are trying to, I mean, maybe some of them more selfishly than others, but a lot of them are trying to keep us entertained, you know? And
yeah,
you have, like earlier this week, the South by Southwest announced that they're going to be releasing a program this month that is going to have all of the feature films that we're going to be screening at South by, as long as the filmmaker, you know, wants to participate. They get a fee, they get paid, I don't know how much, but they do get a fee for having their movie be part of this online South by Southwest festival, which could be really nice for some of these indie filmmakers who maybe this is their first feature that they got into South by. Now and then nobody got to see their movie. And then of course, like, you have to pay to submit your film to a film festival. So maybe this will allow them to recoup some of those losses. Again, I don't know how much of a fee they're getting, but I think it's really cool. And on top of that, this South by Southwest festival is going to be completely free. Even if you're not a Prime member, you can still view it. So it's going to be in front of the paywall, like the Amazon Prime paywall. So even if you're not a Prime member, you can enjoy all the South by Southwest movies that are going to be participating in this, which I think is really awesome. All the South by Southwest shorts are available now, completely for free. You can watch them all right now.
And I mean, you got like Film Movement has their films in, this virtual theater, virtual cinema thing, that you can set it up. You can have it, linked to like your local theater, and they get money for it. Grasshopper Films has a thing. Indie Memphis came out with a thing. Like, it seems like everyone's trying to come up with something.
Yeah. Kino Lorber, they were the ones who did that initiative that, like, through their Kino Now service, they're allowing theaters to run movies, like basically first run movies through their platform, and allowing the theaters to take a cut of the, virtual ticket sales. So you have, like, Film at Lincoln Center having movie screenings online, and when you buy a ticket, you're giving a portion of that ticket sale back to the theater. Tribeca is also working on something. They've been releasing a short film for free every single day, and that was going to be part of the Tribeca Film Festival. And then I think it was just yesterday or Friday, they announced that they're going to be doing some sort of online viewing for this year's festival, because Tribeca was supposed to be this month, and they're going to be, they're still opening the virtual screening library for press. So, like, normally if you go to Tribeca's press, you get access to this virtual screening library, which allows you to watch a select number of films from home. They're doing that still, and they're going to be releasing some of the programs, I think, online. So that's going to be cool too. I don't know if it's going to be, like, open to the public, free for everybody, if you have to pay. I'm not sure, but I think we're going to see some more interesting things coming very soon when it comes to these, like, festival movies.
It's just it's a touch difficult to keep up with it, though. At least it is for me. I've been finding it, because it seems like every day there's like 4 or 5, 6 different things that came out, or I just learned about that day of viewing options.
Yeah, well, that's why I've been really trying to keep our VOD release calendar up to date. And anytime I get a press release or anything about one of these new initiatives that's happening, I try to get it posted up on the site so that it'll be there. I mean, it's as much of a reminder for me as it is for anyone going to the site at this point, because yes, there's a lot going on, especially with, like, release dates changing and moving around. And there are movies that were going to be on VOD, like, after a short theatrical run, and then they just bump up the VOD release in place of the theatrical run. So it is very confusing right now.
Yeah, because I think that even happened with the movie that we're discussing. I think originally I heard Hittman was saying that she was kind of leaning away from going the VOD route, and then like 2 days later, all of a sudden it's going to be available VOD wise. It seems that, what I mean? It seems like it's always changing.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how quickly they are able to push these out and get them up online. Before we get into the review, I just want to quickly mention there will be a new Ryan Watches a Movie this week. We had him watch Logan Lucky, so tune into that on Thursday. I think we can go ahead and get into our review here. Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. As Kevin mentioned, this is directed by Eliza Hittman. I have a synopsis here. A pair of teenage girls in rural Pennsylvania travel to New York City to seek out medical help after an unintended pregnancy. This comes after Beach Rats. Now, if I remember correctly, you liked Beach Rats, right?
The Beach Rats is a movie that, like, at the time I was like, this is pretty good, but it's not really sticking with me. I didn't think it was that phenomenal or anything, but it's one of those that it's like it's kind of grown over the time where I'm like, you know what? Maybe Beach Rats is actually like phenomenal. I might have to go back to Beach Rats. And I think that's kind of the same thing here with this movie. Is she makes movies that are very unassuming, very quiet, kind of very patient, kind of small scale, even though the subjects that she's tackling aren't small scale at all. But the way in which she covers it, kind of these movies are very small and intimate.
Right. I think that's a great way of putting it. She's dealing with a very important, very broad topic, one that I think everyone needs to be thinking about, but she's doing it in a very intimate, sort of minimal way, in a very, very if you've seen Beach Rats or It Felt Like Love, it's the same style where it feels almost like a docu-fiction, the way that it's filmed. Hyper realistic. A lot of really great like handheld camera work. I love the look of this movie. Same with like Beach Rats as well. And that I think adds to the realism of everything.
Yeah. But I think she does get enough in there stylistically wise, especially in this movie. I'm thinking of like the scenes where Autumn has the sonograms. Mm-hmm. The way that's handled when she has the first procedure done in New York, mm-hmm. The way that's handled, those types of things, where she's able to throw in, they're sparse, these stylistic flourishes, which I think are really, they end up being far more impactful because you're so, like you said, it's hyper realism, almost all of the time, and then out of nowhere you'll have this unexpected little flourish that I think works really, really well. And again, it's more it's kind of like Beach Rats, where I was like, that was a pretty good movie. That was good. But I have a feeling that like over time I'm going to keep thinking about this movie. It's going to keep like creeping back into my thoughts. And it's like, hey, you know what? That might actually have been like fantastic.
I think that she made a lot of really smart choices with this movie. I think that, first of all, I think that there's some pretty expertly done casting here. The lead, played by Sydney Flanagan, this is her debut.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't believe that. I was like, what is she from? She's got to be from something.
Yeah, I don't know where she came from, but holy crap, did she just destroy this role. I mean, she was so good. It's just so expertly done. I mean, this is a complex role. This is a very complicated role. You're playing a 17-year-old woman who discovers that she's pregnant and has to go through so many hoops and obstacles to have an abortion. And I think not only does the film expertly show something that's really important that we all need to know about and understand, that this is how things are in this country right now, but also I think it is most likely a very challenging role, especially for a first-time actor. And man, she just was so good in it.
Yeah, and I mean it's a tough one because she's dealing with what she's dealing with, but the fact that the way that Hittman handles this film is like, it's not sensationalized, it's not over dramatized, there's not these huge emotions, it's not that kind of thing. Like, a lot of her performance is just interior work, which she does a really great job handling, and she plays it like a 17-year-old teenager that's kind of in this crisis where there's not a whole lot of talking
right
from her. There's not a whole lot of, freaking out or anything like that. She's got to kind of play this like muted panic
Hmm.
and confusion almost, because as she's trying to navigate this complicated, what are the PA laws? What can she do? And of course, she was given, incorrect information that she didn't know about from her small rural PA doctor's office
I
that
don't.
she finds out when she gets to New York.
Yeah, I think that was one of those fake, like Planned Parenthood clinics, the ones that are like from like the anti-abortion people, and they set up these like fake clinics to
Oh yeah,
trick young women
and
into not having abortions.
I mean, obviously, I don't know like what these places are like, but you kind of get a sense of that in the way that it's kind of shot. Like she's doing the test and the like some of the paperwork on, I think was it like a crib or like a bassinet type thing,
Hmm.
and then when she's like, "Are you abortion minded?" and she pulls up like a video from like, what was that, like 1981?
Yeah.
I mean, like you knew right off the bat that it was like, okay, they have their own agenda here.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. And you could tell that. I mean, I'm sure that the way that it's portrayed in this film is probably very similar to how they are in real life, where they're
Oh
very
yeah,
they're very careful about how they word things in these places so as to not like be overtly committing fraud.
yeah, yeah,
And I think that I'm just going off of what you were saying before about Autumn and her sort of mindset. I think that there's also a fair amount of mistrust that she has to convey in this because uh, as a 17-year-old, you typically don't trust adults, you don't trust authority figures anyway.
yeah.
And her character specifically, I think, and this is another thing that Hittman did that I really appreciated in this film, but it seems apparent that she has reason to mistrust specifically adults. I mean, she doesn't seem to really trust anyone except maybe her best friend, but the adults in her life are all horrible scumbags also. And I think that it seemed like there was something weird going on with, I guess that was her dad. I don't know if it was her dad or her stepdad, but
Oh yeah, I think it was her stepdad.
it seemed like there was something weird going on with him too. And it's never even, I think that what I the thing that I thought was really nice about how Hittman presented this was that you never really know who the father is. You don't really know the backstory with how
Yeah,
she became pregnant.
because
And
yeah, I'm glad that you pointed that out because I really enjoyed that too. Is that like that doesn't matter? Like that's completely irrelevant
right,
to everything that's happening here.
exactly. Like it doesn't matter who the father was. We know that this was an unintended pregnancy. Something probably awful happened that brought us to this point, but we need to move on from here. Like this is where we need to start, and this is where we need to move forward. And I thought that was a really, really great choice to do that because that's not something you typically see in these types of dramas. I think that they
No, exactly, and that again. That's another easy route. I think for a lot of filmmakers, it's an easy route to just add that extra drama in there.
Mhm.
But Hittman's not really interested in that. She knows that there's enough inherent drama in what's happening from the point where she finds out. She takes the test and finds out, and then her decision and what she has to do in order to see it to fruition.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and I think that was that's such a great decision because would have. I think it would have if you did include stuff like that. I think that it might have created this sort of more, not a false narrative, but like it may have detracted from the realism because everything that we see here indicates that whoever the father is, she doesn't want that person to be in her life. She doesn't want that person to maybe even know about it. So it would feel weird and sort of counterintuitive if we did bring that drama into it.
Yeah,
And
and I think it distracts from the overall story here, which is a 17-year-old girl from, like a rural Pennsylvania town where you don't really have the resources and the laws and everything like that. That person trying to navigate getting an abortion, and then what it's like to try and get an abortion at that age with where you live.
Mm-hmm.
And I think any of that stuff would be superfluous and would just distract from that main point.
I think anyone who is for the defunding of Planned Parenthood should have to see this movie, because I think this movie accurately conveys how vitally important things like Planned Parenthood are.
Oh yeah, and just how it just shows how confusing it can be. And I mean, I can't imagine how difficult it is to try and navigate this at 26 years old, 28 years old, let alone as a 17-year-old that really doesn't know the laws in Pennsylvania, and then all the things that you have to go through and how it differs from state to state and what your options are and what you have to do, that type of thing.
And she had her friend, played by Talia Ryder. She had her, was it actually her cousin? At one point she says it's her cousin, but I think it's just her friend. I don't know if it is actually her cousin.
I'm not sure.
At any rate, she has at least one person who she can count on during this ordeal. And there's a lot of people who don't have anybody that they can talk to. And, they're very wary about talking to medical professionals and stuff like that, just because of what they've gone through in their lives. And it's just a really bad situation. I mean, I think fortunately in Autumn's case, she knew what she wanted to do. She wasn't swayed by what the fake clinic people said to her. And I think that she, even though she did seem to not, they offered her a place to stay for the night and stuff, and she turned that down, which I guess I can understand. But at the same time, as somebody who's just viewing this as a movie, I'm like, why would you turn that down? But
Well, yeah, and I think that's because there's an element of me being older and watching. I'm just you need to get your rest. You need to be resting. You have a thing. You have a medical procedure tomorrow. Please get some sleep.
Don't go to the bowling alley. Just
don't. You gotta sleep. You gotta at least get 8 hours, if not more.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's another thing that I think that goes along with Hittman very acutely having the audience be empathizing with these characters. We were constantly wanting for Autumn to make the right decisions and have her get through this situation successfully. And,
but and again, a lot of the decisions are made, you can understand them coming from a 17-year-old.
Yeah, 100%.
It completely makes sense.
Especially because it seems like there was, some horrible things that had happened to her in her past. I mean, prior to this episode, I would kind of say that the title of this movie is not easy to say or remember, and I still agree with that. But the scene that happens where this got its title from is such a powerful scene. That's when certain things are alluded to and revealed, and it man, what a gut punch that scene.
Yeah, that's a tough one to watch.
So I think that this is an important film. I think it's a film that a lot of people should see. Unfortunately, I don't know if this is gonna change people's minds after seeing it, but that's just because people are stubborn and assholes.
Yeah.
I guess my only criticism would be the male representation of this film. Every dude in this movie was a complete asshole, and I just would have liked to see one nice guy.
Yeah.
Just one. Just one nice guy.
What are you talking about? The guys that work in the subway. I thought they were helpful, answering questions. They're much better than any subway, and I could actually understand them.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
They were just kind of doing their job, though.
Yeah, but they were nice. They were nice people.
Nice enough. They were nice enough, I guess.
Nice enough. Nice enough.
I mean, compared to everyone else. The guy that was jerking off on the subway, and that other guy that does
happen though.
I'm not saying that it shouldn't have been in there. I'm just saying it would have been nice to have like one other guy not be a complete prick.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of women that think that in real life too.
I'm sure there's a lot of women that deal with that in
That's
real
what.
life.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Like,
I wish I could just come in contact with one guy that isn't a prick.
Yeah.
In real life, not a movie.
Unfortunately, I think that there are women out there who all their interactions with men are similar to this, and I think that that's horrible.
Yeah.
But still, there are courteous, not predatory men out there.
I know, just a way to kind of piggyback off of you, where you're like, this is an important movie, that kind of thing, and that's been said of numerous films, given the subject matter and that type of thing. And yes, I do 100% agree that it is that type of movie. It is important. You should see it, that kind of thing. But it's also just a very well-made movie too, which is a nice bonus. Where it's fantastic filmmaking, great performances. I mean, the pacing is, damn near perfect. There's just not a whole lot to actually like. There's not a whole lot for me to point at and be like, that didn't really work for me. Pretty much everything worked for me.
Same here. Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is going to be a really interesting film to come back and watch and sort of reevaluate like decades from now, like 30 years from now, 20, 30 years from now, come back to this movie, see like, cause this is a really, I think, accurate snapshot of this very specific topic. And I think that it would be kind of fascinating to come back to it like several decades from now and see how things have changed, hopefully for the better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, great movie. Highly recommended. What are you going to give this out of 10?
Before that, I do want to say that I was, just a trivial thing, I was off because, it's PA. So of course it's this, I don't know if this happens to you, but there's automatically this, like, I have to try and figure out where it is in PA.
Oh yeah.
I was thinking like Pittsburgh. I was thinking outside of Pittsburgh. That's what it looks like to me. But it's north of Harrisburg is what it is.
Yeah, she said something about, because she mentioned, was she saying like New Cumberland or something?
Yeah, it's Northumberland County.
The
actual town that she said doesn't exist. I think it was Ellensburg borough, which I don't think there is an Ellensboro, but Northumberland County is north of Harrisburg, like an hour north. So I was wrong.
I will say that they definitely nailed the PA aesthetic. Like it felt very, very much like Pennsylvania. Everything from like sort of the dreary look of the town to even what they were wearing, even what the characters were wearing felt very, very much hometowny to me.
Agreed. I would give this like a 8.5 maybe.
Yeah, I'm sitting at an 8 on this one. Highly recommend it. It's rated PG-13, so it's, most any teenagers can see this movie. It is on VOD, so you can rent it now and watch it at home. So definitely check it out. Again, that's Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. Not to be confused with that other one.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is like it's about Scrabble or something. I think Bill Nighy's in it.
Yeah. I don't. Why? Sometimes, always, never.
Yeah, Sometimes, Always, Never. And that was slated for theaters April 17th.
Yeah, I mean, come on. But Scrabble. That one's about Scrabble. Don't get confused. Do not get confused.
Yeah. All right. Let's jump into some of what I'm watching on the watch list. I'll start it off with Centipede Horror from 1982. Now, this sort of going off of what we said at the top of the show about these theatrical, like at-home experiences. This is part of Alamo Drafthouse's Terror Tuesdays. So at the Alamo Drafthouse, every Tuesday they would do Terror Tuesday. They would show a different film. Usually it was like sort of a rare print or something like that. It was sort of an event. And then they would also do Weird Wednesdays as well, and they are bringing that online. So the very first one was Centipede Horror, which is directed by Keith Lee. This is a print. This is like a 35 millimeter print that was sourced by the American Genre Film Archives. Pretty rare from what I gathered. And boy, oh boy, this movie is pretty ridiculous. It's a Chinese film, and it's more than about, you see the title Centipede Horror, and you think, oh, there's going to be some centipedes eating some people in this, and that does happen for sure. But there's a lot more going on than that. See, it's a wizard that's casting this spell, and the wizard has a centipede spell that makes centipedes attack people, and not only attack them, but like go inside of them. And after all the centipedes go inside of you, like he can control you because the centipedes like control your body.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's even more craziness than that. There's a scene where somebody vomits up scorpions. There's a scene where a snake grows out of somebody's head. Like it's a snake inside someone's head, and it like busts out of their head. There's a scene where someone reanimates chicken bones and uses these chicken bones to attack people. It's pretty out of control. It's not a great movie, but holy cow, is it worth a look.
You're just saying a bunch of stuff that I like.
Mm-hmm.
What you're doing.
Yeah. This is on your watch list, so at some point you must have read about this.
No, I think this is probably because when you originally said Centipede Horror to me, I was thinking like an American movie. Mm-hmm. And if you tell me Centipede Horror, American movie, I'm just like, no, that's not that. Just going based off of that, that's a shit movie. I don't want to see it. No, thank you. No interest. But if you tell me Chinese Hong Kong movie from the 80s, Centipede Horror, that's a whole different thing. So this is probably when I was into Boxer's Omen. This was probably during my research. I came across this movie, and I was like, oh my God, yes.
Calamity of Snakes during that time?
Yes. Yeah. Are you kidding me? Come on.
So I believe this is actually still available. Yeah, according to this, it is still available. Now, the cool thing that they did with the Alamo Drafthouse, at least for this series, is they put it on Vimeo. So it's not like one of these cool, like weird, streaming services that doesn't work great. It's on Vimeo, so you can actually. This is still available. It's $7.75, and I think it's worth it. Although I will say, first of all, it's really gross. Like if that didn't come through in what I was like already kind of describing, there's a lot of real centipedes being used here. There's a scene where a woman is vomiting up centipedes, and like they're straight up real centipedes that she has like stuffed in her mouth. So there's some really gross stuff going on here. But I completely lost the subtitles are not great. So the translation seems fine. However, it's white on white. So, and it's a very light colored movie. So there's a lot of scenes where I just straight up couldn't see what they were saying because it completely blended in. I hate that. Completely blended in with the background. And the subtitles are like, they're not new. Like this is like directly they're hard coded in to the print. So they're like kind of faded as well. So that would be my main criticism with this. This is not a restoration or anything like that. The print is in kind of rough shape.
I only saw one other movie, and it took a lot of time to get it, as you know, and that's The Whistlers.
Oh, so you did see it? I wasn't even sure. I wasn't sure that you actually made it through.
It was like a day and a half excursion for me. So in some ways it took more time than just going straight to the movie theater. The streaming is supposed to make things a little bit easier, more accessible, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they make it far more difficult than they should be. But luckily, with all the rigmarole that I had to go through in order to see this movie, just various different websites, reloading shit, trying different browsers, all that kind of thing, I was able to get it, and it didn't disappoint, because that's what would have really sucked, Adam, is if I finally gotten to see it, right, paid the money for it, got it up and running, and then it was a shitty movie. That would have killed me, and I probably would have just been like, Adam, I'm done with movies for the month of April. Fuck this.
I tried.
Just can't. Shut it down.
Now,
shut it down, man.
Before you continue, which theater did you go through?
I went through, you can go through, this is a Magnolia Pictures film. So you can go through their website, and then they have a list of theaters that you can essentially,
support.
Like the money goes towards them.
Uh-huh.
And I think when I did it, it was 100% goes to that theater. And then after the third, I want to say, I think when it came out on Friday, after the third, it was like a 50-50 split with the theater and Magnolia.
Okay. Which theater did you support?
I did Midtown Cinema in Harrisburg.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool that they have one. That's cool that they have one relatively close to you.
Yeah, they have a long list on there, which is nice. So you can just scroll through and pick one. This is more of a, if you know, this is a film by Kunal Parumbo, and he's the guy that did Police Adjective, The Treasure, When Evening Falls on Bucharest, or Metabolism, Infinite Football. He's a Romanian filmmaker. This is a little bit of a departure, just slight departure. Number one, it's a much bigger budget. And number two, it's kind of like a straightforward genre picture. All right. So it's a lot of double crossing, twists and turns. And what it involves is this policeman is kind of working on both sides. He's part of the narcotics department. He's working this case with this guy that he actually works with and makes his money from, which is this guy that has like a mattress factory, right? So he's trying to, juggle these two things back and forth. But the guy ends up getting arrested, and now he's got to try and get him out of jail to try and get some of the money back. And what they end up coming up with is to go to the Canary Islands and learn a language which involves whistling. Now, this is a true thing on the island. They have a whistling language. So he kind of incorporates that into the movie, where he goes with these gangsters on Canary Islands and learns the whistling language, which is kind of their way to communicate when they get back to the home country to break this guy out of jail. They can speak in code, essentially, with the whistling language. And then, of course, it slowly uncovers, how he got to this point, how he's going to get out of this, and, all the myriad characters that are involved in this. And I got to say, it's pretty good for like a straight genre picture with that, that element that makes it far more interesting, than your regular genre picture where you have this whistling language that they got to utilize. And I mean, there's a bunch of twists and turns, switching sides like crazy left and right. I mean, it's pretty damn good.
Very cool. Yeah, I was interested in this. That's The Whistlers. So check it out.
You're definitely not going to be. You're not going to be disappointed. Trust me.
Yeah. Maybe I'll give that a look today. Actually, I got some time that I can give something a look. All right. I saw Pooka Lives. This is the latest Into the Dark entry. I think I might be done. I might be done with them. So actually the first Pooka was the only one. I'm pretty sure it was the only Into the Dark episode that I didn't see. It's the one that was directed by Nacho Vigalondo. I don't know why that one eluded me, but anyway, I knew that this one was coming, so I watched the first one. I hated it, and then I watched this one, and I hated it, maybe even more than the first one. Like, it's just not good. So the premise of this is that there's this children's character named Pooka, and it starts off as sort of a doll that it'll like mimic you, and sometimes it'll be happy and sometimes it'll be mad. Now, the plot of the first movie involves an actor who gets hired to put on the Pooka suit and like go to, children's parties and events and stuff as Pooka. And the premise of it is that like the suit sort of changes him, and he can no longer differentiate between like whether he's himself or he's the character of Pooka, and starts killing people. This one, it takes the concept of Pooka and turns it into this thing where this guy decides that he wants to sort of start a viral like internet thing, sort of like Slender Man, but what happens is he and his friends devise this like story about Pooka, and it goes viral, and everybody's doing the Pooka challenge, and it turns out that everyone who does this Pooka challenge ends up dying. So it sort of like starts off as an internet thing, and then like it is basically willed into existence through the internet. And I mean, I guess it's kind of a cool concept. One of the cool things that I think that they represent is how stories evolve and change over time online. So like he wrote this Pooka challenge thing, sent it off, and it started gaining traction, went viral, and then people started gradually adding to it. And the way that that's represented in the movie is like actually the look of Pooka changes. So every time that there's like this new iteration, the actual monster looks different to represent like how the story has evolved. And I thought that was actually pretty cool. But the movie itself was it's just not great. It's not very entertaining. Like it's pretty meh. Pretty meh. At any rate, if you want to check it out, it is on Hulu, so you can see it there. I saw Ricochet. This is from 1991. It's directed by Russell Mulcahy.
I want this movie.
So this stars Denzel Washington as a police officer who, when he's a police officer, but he's also going to law school, and he's like a beat cop, and he ends up catching and arresting this hitman played by John Lithgow. Kevin Pollak is his partner, by the way, Denzel's partner in this. And so several years later, Denzel ends up getting a promotion because of this collar, and he becomes a detective. Same with Kevin Pollak. They're still partners. Now they're detectives. And John Lithgow's character ends up getting out of prison. He breaks out of prison in an absolutely insane scene. This scene is so wild. What happens during so he's up for parole, and he does something to break out of prison during his parole hearing, and it is so wild. This movie is batshit. I mean, it is so over the top. It's written by Fred Decker, so you know that it's going to be something different when with Fred Decker writing it. And man, it's wild. Like, it's egregiously violent. Like, more violent than it has any right to be, considering the material, because it seems like it's going to be a pretty straightforward like action movie, but it's not at all. It's really bizarre. The dialogue is also very bizarre too. Overall, it's just kind of a weird movie, but I had a blast with it. I can't believe I never saw this before, but I'm really glad I did. If you have HBO Go, it is available on HBO Go.
Shit.
Yeah, so you can check it out. Again, it's called Ricochet, and highly recommend it. I saw Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't really have much more to add other than the fact that I saw it. It's not as bad as I expected it to be. Years ago when they started doing these like live action CG hybrids, they were all so bad. Like, remember the Marmaduke movie? Remember the fact that they made a Marmaduke movie?
No.
Like,
nope.
Oh man. And what were those other movies? The ones that like it was about like pets, like remember it was like there was like a guinea pig, and like it was like a bunch of different pets, and they could talk, but it was like a live action CG hybrid type thing. Anyway, all these movies were really bad. So going into Sonic the Hedgehog and knowing the whole like scandal with the character and the redoing the animations and all of that stuff, like I didn't really have very high expectations going into it. And I gotta say, like, it wasn't horrible. I mean, certainly a kid's movie, but it was pretty funny. There were some pretty funny parts.
Well, that's good.
Jim Carrey was completely over the top as Dr. Robotnik. It was almost an Ace Ventura like role.
Oh shit!
Like it
All right.
was so ridiculous. It was actually annoying. Like I really did not. I just didn't like that
Keep
character.
keep that back in the '90s.
Yeah. So anyway, like for adults, I would say you don't have to see it. You could probably skip it, but I think for kids, they might get a lot of enjoyment out of it. Okay, let's take a look at what we have on VOD this week. We got What You Gonna Do When the World's on Fire. It's a
Ooh,
Yeah, that's a very appropriate title considering what's going on right now.
I've been looking forward to this one.
We got Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. That's two better than
Ooh,
the other one.
yep. That's that one then plus two.
These are on April 7th, by the way, Tuesday. We got About a Teacher. This is going to be on Amazon Prime. We got She's Allergic to Cats. That looks like this kind of surreal, experimental type film.
I've heard good things about that.
I don't know. It just doesn't look like it's
I know.
my thing, but I
Doesn't
think
look like it's my thing either, but I don't have a lot going on, so
that's true.
I might, I might be checking it out. Who knows?
That is very true. We got Dead by Dawn coming out, A Kid from Coney Island, Rootwood, which is a horror movie, Welcome to the Scariest Place on Earth. On Earth is italicized in there, so I'm kind of trying to put a little emphasis on that.
What does that mean, though?
I don't know.
Why would you italicize it? Is that...
I don't know.
Oh, man.
Agatha and the Truth of Murder, which is a story about Agatha Christie solving a murder.
All right.
So, all right. The Perished. It's another horror movie. And then on the 10th, we have Sea Fever. Tiger Tail is going to be on Netflix. This is a film by Alan Yang. Tiger Tail.
Oh. I thought this was like they already did a...
No, but did you see that they are going to be releasing a bonus episode of it?
No.
Yeah, there's going to be a bonus one coming out. I don't know when.
Jesus.
Netflix also has The Main Event, which looks like maybe a kids movie. We Summon the Darkness is coming out. That's like a horror comedy. We got Tape coming out. That's about it for VOD. On Blu-ray this week, we have Little Women. This is the Greta Gerwig one.
Okay.
We have Beyond the Door from 1974. That's an Arrow video release. American Pie Presents The Naked Mile from 2006. That's probably one that Ryan saw and liked.
Probably, yeah.
Breach from 2007 is getting a new Blu-ray edition. Supernatural from 1933. Let's see. VFW. I think I already mentioned that last week. I'm not sure if it's like, I don't know what that's all about. Doolittle from earlier this year is coming out on 4K. Cats from late last year. Cats.
Wait, did you say last year?
Yeah, wasn't it last year? Didn't it come out the end of last year? It was December,
Maybe.
right?
I think you might be right.
Yeah, I think it was December.
Just seems like Cats was a long time ago.
I know it does, yeah. Did you see the video for the butthole cut? It's so funny.
No. I mean, I saw that it exists. You shared it with me. But I was like, I'm not.
It's really funny.
I'm not. My quarantine life isn't that bad yet.
It's pretty funny. Let's see what else we have here. Knives and Skin from last year. I'd recommend checking that one out. That was pretty interesting. That's pretty much it. Bunch of anime coming out, but what about Criterion's?
Oh, Army of Shadows from Melville, 1969.
Hell yeah.
Which is, I think this is currently the giveaway, correct?
That is the giveaway. So if you want to win a copy of Army of Shadows on Criterion, head over to the site and enter to win.
Yeah, and it's got a decent number of special features on here. Get a restoration overseen by the director of photography, new audio commentary from 2006, interview from 2007, on-set footage, archival interviews, a documentary from 2005, a short documentary from 1944, restoration demonstration by the DP, all sorts of stuff.
Nice. Have you seen this?
I want to say yes, but I don't know. I know this is one of those movies that's been like on a watch list for ages. Yes, I watched it and I gave it a 9 out of 10.
I gave it a 10 out of 10. This was like, I remember, I actually don't remember a whole lot about the movie, but I do remember loving it and thinking that it was like absolutely gorgeous.
I think it's coming back to me. Seeing some images here. I guess that means it might be time for a rewatch.
Yeah, I'm thinking of giving it a rewatch when it comes out as well. All right, I think that's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. You can send us your questions and topics to podcast@filmpulse.net. You can follow us on Twitter @FilmPulseNet and @FilmPulseKevin. And if you have a minute, consider giving us a review on your podcast platform of choice. For Kevin Rakestraw, my name's Adam Patterson. We'll see you next week.